All right, I can see all of the attendees joining, but I think we can go ahead and open the meeting of the Board of Health on August 7th. It's 5:04 p.m. So I am Risha Hess. I am the chair. I also see in attendance Betsy Brooks, Jack Jemasek, Pramila Nair, and that is our board currently. No one is absent. And then Kiko and Maheen are both from the town of Amherst. Okay, so welcome everyone. We have a large number of attendees compared to our normal meetings, which is exciting. I'm excited for the conversations. Just to review the agenda, we will start with the minutes review. We will then have a section on public comment. The first order of business is old business, which is revisiting the waste hauler discussion. Then we will go into new business, the kratom, the preparation for the fall tobacco public hearing, and possible Board of Health planning retreat. We will have a director's update, topics not anticipated, and we know that we have a water approval that has come in late breaking that will be in that section. And then we will have another chance for public comment before we end, and hopefully this is a 5 to 7-ish timeline. So I wanted to see if anyone had any comments or corrections on the minutes from last meeting. I looked at them, I thought they looked good. And Pramila, you're going to have to say yay or nay because I can't see you shake heads like I can.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm still trying to figure it out, but
okay.
I don't have any problem with the minutes.
All right. So I guess motion to approve the minutes. All in favor. Pramila, you can also raise your virtual hand if that's easier than saying aye each time, but all in favor? Aye. Everyone is, so that is passed. And we're going to open it up to public comment. So just as a structure for the public comment, you can raise your virtual hand if you would like to say something. Maheen will let you in the order that she sees your hands. Please start a comment with introducing who you are, if you represent any organization. If not, that's fine. And where, if you are from Amherst or if you're from a different place. And please keep your, Kiko, is it 3 minutes?
3 minutes. Yeah. And actually, we thought, Risha, that it might be easiest to, because we've had so much interest in 2 topics on the agenda, to say first, we'd like to hear the public comments related to the waste hauler discussion. And then secondly, kratom. And then thirdly, anything else. So I see hands up. So if we could first have people raise their hands if they want to comment about waste hauler, just those hands should be up. We'll go through that group and Maheen will do that. And then we'll go through the kratom group and then any other comments. And I'll be watching the timing and Maheen will be in charge of unmuting people so that they can speak. Yeah. So we just need
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. And Maheen will just be allowing people to talk. We don't need to promote people to panelists, just allow them to talk.
Okay.
I guess on the last, just so you know, we don't respond during this public comment, so we will just be listening and really appreciate you coming and commenting in this forum. So Maheen, over to you for the first.
Okay, Jill Medina, I'm gonna call on you. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Okay. And can you see me, or you don't need to see me?
No, but we can hear you.
Okay, alrighty. Okay, good evening. I live in Deerfield. My name is Jill Medina Elizalde, and I'm speaking as a longtime member of the Greater Amherst chapter of Mothers Out Front, which is a network of mothers and other caregivers working to make climate justice a reality in our communities. And as we've done in the past, we endorsed the bylaw proposal requiring a town waste hauler contract, including universal curbside compost pickup. On behalf of our group, I also request that implementation of the proposal be added to the town manager's goals. Reducing our food waste, composting locally, and using that compost as a rich soil amendment or black gold are vital components of a resilient food system and improve our water and air quality. While opt-in programs like voluntary backyard composting or voluntary curbside pickup are great, they make only a small dent in reducing the waste. So we need a program of universal curbside compost pickup paired with a local compost processing facility that would result in significant waste reduction, worthy of this town's highest goals and values. So I want to thank you for listening. And we'll move on this now. While the interest is high with many organizations on board and expecting progress, let's make it a town manager goal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Andy Steinberg. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hi. I'm Andy Steinberg. I'm a member of the town council, a counselor at large. And so I appreciate the opportunity to be with you for a couple minutes. And we'll stay for the agenda item if you have any questions. I am one of the original 4 counselor sponsors of the bylaw or change that would be necessary to implement a waste hauler system. And I therefore am interested in your thoughts and appreciative of the Board of Health support for the issue. As you know, there are several goals and components of what we're trying to accomplish. One is to make compost universally available. Second of all is to implement some kind of what is known as pay-as-you-throw system so that people have a financial incentive to provide less trash that goes to landfills. And third is that our belief that changing the system so that it is one that is administered by the town as opposed to individual contracts with a hauler will produce a lower cost for homeowners so that or renters so that there's an incentive to instill this new system on multiple fronts. I don't have anything else to say. It is a town manager goal. The council establishes the town manager goals, and it is very important. But I will remain through your next agenda discussion, and you can call on me for additional information if it would be helpful. And thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I think before we move on, so I don't see any other hands, so I'm assuming there aren't any other folks in the audience who want to comment on this particular issue, the waste hauler issue. But we do have some public comments to read, so I'm going to read those.
And
They're all
Kiko,
brief.
sorry,
Yes.
can I jump in 1 second and just for people who haven't attended these meetings or ones like them, during the actual conversation, we aren't able to have a multi-way conversation with the people in the audience. So we will occasionally call on people if we have questions as we're debating. But if you do have something that you wanted to contribute to the conversation, please do raise your hand now or at the end at the final public comment, because it isn't a forum for discussion during the actual agenda item.
Thanks, Risha, for clarifying that. We did receive 4 public comments about this issue from Amherst residents. One is from Dr. John Gerber, who's a professor and online program coordinator with Sustainable Food and Farming Program at UMass Amherst. And he writes, I find it disturbing that the common sense proposal originally submitted by Zero Waste Amherst to contract with local waste haulers to pay as you throw and offer curbside compost pickup has taken so long to implement. I have served on the Amherst Farm Committee, the Amherst Conservation Commission, and as one of the 2 founders of Grow Food Amherst. I've taught courses related to sustainable living at UMass and been engaged in personal sustainability actions most of my life. I know from experience that the social structures influence personal behavior. If we are going to effectively deal with solid waste in a cost-effective manner, we must provide community-based solutions. I live alone and generate 1 or 2 small bags of solid waste per week. This sits at the bottom of a large container, which is picked up weekly by USA Waste and Recycling. I can compost all of my compostable waste in my own garden space. I've been waiting for the town to implement the quote, pay as you throw, unquote plan for several years. I hope the Board of Health can motivate our town council to finally take the appropriate action. In community, Dr. John Gurkin. Secondly, we have from Madeline Charney at 42 Cherry Lane in Amherst. My name is Madeline Charney. I have lived at 42 Cherry Lane in Amherst for 15 years and work at UMass Amherst as the environmental sciences librarian, 21 years of employment. I am writing as a member of Mothers Out Front, Greater Amherst Chapter, a network of mothers and other caregivers working to make climate justice a reality in our communities. We endorse the bylaw proposal requiring a town waste hauler contract, including universal curbside compost pickup. On behalf of our group, I request that implementation of the proposal be added to the town manager's goals. Reducing our food waste, composting locally, and using that compost as a rich soil amendment or black gold are vital components of a resilient food system and improve water and air quality. While opt-in programs like voluntary backyard composting or voluntary curbside pickup are great, they make only a small dent in reducing waste. We need a program of universal curbside compost pickup paired with a local compost processing facility that would result in significant waste reduction worthy of this progressive town's values. Let's move on this now while interest is high with many organizations on board and expecting progress now. Let's make it a town manager goal. And then from Adrienne Terizzi, she writes to the BOH committee members, as I am unable to attend your meeting this Thursday, please accept my comments below regarding the waste reduction proposal. I applaud the support of the proposal by a previous incarnation of your committee and urge that you reaffirm it again tonight. We fail to understand why this important local climate initiative for reducing energy consumption, reducing waste and emissions, and environmental and carbon sequestration strategies haven't yet been implemented, especially in light of the current renderings at the federal level. And then finally from Polly Peterson and Louise Grosslin, who are speaking for the Green Sanctuary Committee of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Amherst. They write, the Green Sanctuary Committee of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Amherst endorsed the Zero Waste Amherst proposal in the past and remains committed to pursuing its waste reduction goals. Reducing waste is an important element in creating a more sustainable environment for our community and our planet into the future. One of us has had the opportunity to participate in a successful curbside compost pickup program in Davis, California, a university town much like Amherst, and we believe that such a system is both feasible and advisable here. Curbside composting not only contributes to a reduction in the quantity of waste overall, but at the same time provides a useful resource that can be used to feed plants or improve degraded land. The other big change in the proposal is a pay-as-you-throw fee structure, which would encourage recycling, resulting in savings for residents who discard less trash. In other towns, this has led to a significant reduction in the amount of trash generated. Apparently, Town Council authorized expenses for hiring a consultant who would request RFPs from trash haulers last August. We are surprised this has not yet resulted in any action. We urge the Board of Health to join us in supporting the Zero Waste Amherst proposal. Thank you.
Great. And I saw one more hand go up. I assume it's about the same topic.
Yes, Amanda, I'm going to allow you to talk. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, my name is Amanda Rayner. Are we still speaking on the kratom ban?
That will be the next section of comments.
Okay, all right. Do you need me to wait then for that? That's fine.
I mean, we're ready for the next batch. So if you want to be the first in the next batch, go ahead.
Well, sure,
Go ahead.
Sure. Okay. My name is Amanda, and I am a 47-year-old disabled woman living here. I live in New Hampshire, but I am in Massachusetts probably about 95% of the time. I lost my mom years ago to the pain clinic. And when I lost her, I had vowed that I needed to live a more healthier and holistic life. I was put on pain meds at the early age of 9 years old. So for 30 years, I was on a slew of pain medication, depression medicine, anxiety medication, blood pressure medicine. I was able to come off all of that about 8 years ago with Kratom. I take very small amounts. I don't abuse it. I don't get high from it. And I'm able to function. I can get out of bed and just do normal things like go to a concert and listen to some music with my son this weekend, which I'm very much looking forward to. Before Kratom, I would have been bedbound and I would have missed all of that. There's a lot of science on it. It is safe. It is a much safer alternative. So I'm just really asking you guys to please don't take away something that I know has given me my life back. I'm not one that's using it for addiction or drug abuse, but it has been used for that. It has been used for centuries in Southeast Asia, and it's just safe. It's no more harmful than a cup of coffee, And I'm just really asking to please, I should be able to choose a plant that is my therapy to take care of my ailments and give me a life. I would not be alive today if I did not have Kratom. The medication that I was on would have taken me out. I haven't had to take over 50,000 pills, pharmaceutical pills, in the last 8 years. And my organ scans, my blood work is all fantastic. And
Thank you, Amanda. I think you were breaking up a bit, but I think you've stopped talking now. So thank you for your comment.
life. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Next we have John. I'm gonna allow you to talk. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. My name is John Schenholzer. I'm the Advocacy Director for American Veterans for Kratom Safe. Also, I'm a person in recovery from addiction. This Sunday, I celebrate 43 years clean and sober, and actually got sober in the Marine Corps. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. And I got with me some samples of Kratom, but I don't think you're going to be able to see them. But I got FDA regulatory process Kratom in front of me that says exactly what's in the package, how to use it, what not to use, all the basic warnings you would see in an FDA GMP, good manufacturing product. But also got a pack of alleged Kratom, which is 7-hydroxamine. And in the GMP FDA regulatory pack product, it notes that it has 0.02% of 7-hydroxamine in it. And this other product in a single serving has 5.2 milligrams of 7-hydroxy in it. So the problem everybody's facing in the United States today, it's not necessarily the plant product Kratom, the properly processed product. It's the renegade, adulterated, illegal product because the FDA, they already made it clear they're going to ban this product and they're going to schedule on it on the DEA. Now, the data and the science, you got to realize there's over 600 scientific studies done on Kratom, over 100 peer-reviewed. And John Hopkins, one of the leading institutes doing the science, they did this incredible survey, data-driven survey, and 87% of the Kratom consumers don't have a problem with it. They use it for why they use it, and it solved their problems. 10% has a dependent profile. But that's not the worst thing in the world because, diabetics are dependent on insulin and hell, I took Wellbutrin, I had to wean off of. But there's a 3% addiction profile. We know there's an addiction profile. I've been in the addiction industry in the space now for over 20 years. I'm a leader in the nation on peer recovery support service providers. I'm nationally recognized. Been heavily involved in lots of legislation. In 2014 in Virginia, we copied the Massachusetts.
John, you have 30 seconds left, just letting you know.
Well, I'm going to stay on the line in case y'all, got some questions during your discussion. Feel free to ask me because I don't think y'all got the full money on information and education. So I'm here if you need me. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Next, we have Heidi Sikora. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Dr. Heidi Sikora. I'm a retired nurse practitioner and healthcare executive, and I am a Kratom consumer. I started taking Kratom approximately 6 years ago because I have a Chiari malformation, a tethered spinal cord, hereditary alpha-tryptosemia, Ehlers-Danlos, hypermobility, and a lot of chronic severe pain. Kratom, the natural product, just the powder, has got me from sitting in a chair watching my grandchildren play to being outside and building a treehouse for them. Has been incredible. Now, not Kratom alone. I have used it as a tool to go ahead and stretch and exercise and get myself in tip-top shape. As a nurse practitioner, my specialty was geriatrics, and so prescribing carefully was my specialty. And I can tell you that, in my opinion, there is nothing safer and more effective for chronic severe pain than Kratom. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Heidi.
You're
I
welcome.
just want to remind people to please say where you're from before you start making your comments. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. And maybe I'll just say, because both of the last speakers, I was going to say the same thing, Kiko. Thank you. Both the last speakers have also submitted testimonies. So Heidi, it looks like, is from Illinois. And John, I'm guessing here, but I believe is from Virginia.
Okay, next we have Misty Brown. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Misty Brown. I'm a fierce Kratom advocate, consumer, and activist from Colorado. I just wanted to read y'all my testimony. I was addicted to FDA-approved pain pills, benzos, and muscle relaxers for 11 years straight, from 2008 to 2019. I got fired from chronic pain management in April 2019 because I didn't show up for a per-contract pill count. I was 11 pills short, and my drug dealers didn't have any pink Oxy 10s. After that, I went to the streets and started doing cocaine while I was searching for a new pain management doctor. In June of 2019, while in cocaine withdrawal, I watched that documentary, A Leaf of Faith. My journey with Kratom began the very next day. Kratom shut that I need one more snort, one more pill, one more escape noise off in my brain. It allowed me to work on my whys of addiction. I have not been back to pain management in 6 years. I'm a functioning member of society again. I'm a thriving mother again. I pay taxes again. I am no longer a burden to my kids, and I am now a first-time grandmother. I will be forever grateful and thankful that I accidentally found lab-tested whole leaf powder Kratom. I now pass on my journey, wisdom, and science to help those struggling with addiction, chronic pain, anxiety, and depression. I just want to say that on July 29th, the FDA is recommending the DEA Schedule 1 synthetic 7-OH. Y'all have to know. You have to know how to differentiate between synthetic 7-OH and Kratom. Synthetic 7-OH is sold under the guise as being a Kratom product. If you read or see stories about people having problems with Kratom, it's more than likely it's the 7-OH products. They come in these little blister packs that you can get at the gas stations or smoke shops, vape shops, anything like that. So you have to know to differentiate that. And just know it's on the FDA and DEA's radar. They did a press release on July 29th. So thank y'all for listening to me.
Thank you, Misty.
Okay. Next we have Jen and Dylan. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, Dylan's actually on a separate device. I just couldn't, there was no way for me to change my name when I logged in. So this is just Jen. Jen Mercier. I was born and raised in Amesbury, Massachusetts, and I currently reside, I'm your neighbor right over the border in New Hampshire. And just real quick side note, the whole waste management thing, the composting. I love it. We're permaculturists over here. And I like almost chimed in because I was like, I would love that program in my town. Okay, but on to Kratom. So I'm a mama, I am a business owner, I am a fierce Kratom advocate as well. I think there's a lot of misinformation that goes around about this wonderful plant that helps so many people for pain management, for just kind of overall well-being, bringing up their baseline when their baseline is so low. It's not for everybody, that's for sure, but the people who need it and want it and use it, most of us don't abuse it. It's like a cup of tea. You know, a lot of us use the crushed leaf. We don't even use the powder. It's an herbal supplement that comes from Indonesia. It's a relative of the coffee tree. And like it's been brought up, the FDA has kind of done some of the heavy lifting here already. So they are moving to schedule the synthetics, the things that are causing problems, the things that are the bad actors in the kind of supplement industry, which I mean, that kind of happens across the board. It's not just the kratom industry where this happens. So I'm excited that, you know, people are taking steps in the right direction to bring education around what is real and what is not, what is natural and what is not. One of the things that I really appreciate about it is I've had 5 emergency surgeries. I also have EDS. And I don't work with pharmaceuticals because they have destroyed my body over the years. And after, I think it was my first surgery, I refused all painkillers. So I was looking for an alternative. So once I was able to find kratom, it really took me out of pain and was able to give me a quality of life that I hadn't had in a very long time. So, sorry, I'm a little scattered. I have a 2-year-old running around me at the moment. Laura Romney, I have done educational series with her. She works for the American Kratom Association. She couldn't be here because she is currently on a plane. However, I know that she had sent an email and we would love to do an educational session with you, bringing up the scientific studies, the ones that John had spoken. He is often on these calls as well. I will try to stick around for questions at the end. Would love to just kind of, I know you can't really have a back and forth, but if there's anything that we can do to help educate and promote real knowledge on this subject and give your community the kind of due diligence of research that they deserve, I'm happy to help in any way I can.
This is a beautiful one because it has a princess.
Okay, sweetie. Sorry. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Jennifer Gillis. Jennifer, will allow you to speak. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, how are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. My name is Jennifer Gillis, and I am a kratom advocate and consumer from Tennessee. I just wanted to share my story with you. 19 years ago, I was diagnosed with transverse myelitis, and with that, I became a chronic pain patient for the rest of my life. For 13 years, I struggled. You know, I went to pain management, tried all kinds of solutions to help manage my chronic pain. Fortunately, though, due to DA cutbacks and new guidelines, I was no longer able to have those options, the prescription pain medications. Luckily, in 2019, a friend of mine told me about kratom, and I decided to try it. Didn't know what else to do. But it's given me my life back. You know, I'm able to go on field trips with my kids. I'm able to grocery shop. I'm able to clean my house. I'm able to just live a normal life, as normal as I can. But I do know that, you know, there's a lot of people in Massachusetts that take kratom for chronic pain. And so I just wanted to be the voice for those people today that weren't able to be here. Now I do believe in regulation, you know, and you know, age restrictions, definitely differentiating the 7-OH products from regular leaf kratom. That's a big thing. But anyway, that's my piece. I just wanted to tell my story. I really appreciate your opportunity for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Glenn Shipe. I'm going to allow you to talk. Please unmute and introduce yourself. Might be muted.
Is Glenn available?
There. How's that?
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. I was a police officer 17 years. I've never done an illicit drug in my life, but I've had 15, 16 surgeries. It's on Tramadol. My pain management doctor, I asked him about Kratom. He said, I'd rather have to take that than Tramadol. So that's, I've been on Kratom for the last 6, 7 years for all the surgeries I've had. They didn't even need pain medicine for hernia I had. Doctor called it in, Percocets in at the Walgreens. I said, I don't want them. I went home and I talked it out with Creative, and that's just, here I am, an advocate, and just let you know my story. Thank you for letting me talk.
And I think we missed your introduction. You may have still been on mute. Could you reintroduce?
Yeah, I'm Glenn from Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next.
Next we have Dylan. I'm gonna allow you to speak. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Awesome. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Dylan Smith. I'm a New England resident, a father, and an advocate for natural health and medicine. My wife grew up in Massachusetts, and we spend time in the state weekly and care about the state and the people that live in it. Before discovering whole leaf kratom powder, I dealt with a host of debilitating health issues. In 2018, I was diagnosed with neuroborreliosis, an infection of the brain and nervous system from the bacteria that causes Lyme disease. After suffering from a host of debilitating symptoms that completely upended my life for over 10 years. Before kratom and other natural herbs came into my life, my daily reality was crippling pain, fatigue, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and digestive distress. My condition became so severe that in 2018, I was hospitalized for over a month and shortly after received a diagnosis. My health had declined to the point I was put on disability and for several years was unable to support myself. And while most people never return to work after going on disability, I recently have, in largest part due to kratom's role in helping to manage my complex health issues. This has allowed me to contribute to our family and community in ways that would otherwise have not been possible for me. In 2016, I entered recovery from alcohol and prescription pills and began detoxing off several pharmaceuticals, including benzodiazepines like Xanax and Klonopin, and stimulants like Adderall and Ritalin. I was legally prescribed these to manage my symptoms. I'm extremely familiar with the concept of sobriety and what it means to be sober versus to not be sober. And with a background in addiction, I'm acutely aware of when something plays a medicinal role in my life and when something is destructive. No other substance has ever been more medicinal and helpful in my 15 years of treatment as kratom leaf has been. It absolutely supports my recovery process, just like so many people across the country, and has a massive positive impact on my mental health and discomfort levels without getting me intoxicated or inebriated, something that's so important for someone in my position. It is because of kratom's ability to take the place of high-profit pharmaceuticals and be used as an exit substance that is so heavily demonized. It is actually because of how beneficial it is that we see calls for bans across the country. It's so beneficial that it cuts into the profits of the pharmaceutical companies who heavily lobby and influence our government. This is a classic case of profits over people, just like we saw with cannabis over the past 10 years. Massachusetts has already become a leader in the alternative and plant medicine space, allowing their people to choose what treatments or medicines work best for them, despite pushback from big pharma. Why would we now go in the opposite direction? It is in fact the same people who created the opiate crisis who continue to profit off the dependency and addiction that they caused, who see kratom leaf as a threat to their revolving door of profit, pain management, and rehabilitation. And these are the people calling for the bans behind the scenes. The stakes couldn't be higher for me personally. If I lost access to whole leaf kratom, it would massively impact my ability to be the father and community member that I am today. It would mean returning to a life of pain, instability, and suffering, taking away the single most effective tool that I have to manage my physical and mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else. If there's anyone that wants to make a public comment about kratom, please raise your hand.
Okay, I'm going to take that as the end of the public kratom comments. I do want to offer, in case there's someone else here who wanted to make a comment that isn't about waste hauler or kratom, is there any other general comments that anyone wanted to make? Okay, I don't see any hands. So,
Oh, there's one.
there is one. There's Pat.
I'm allowing you to speak, Pat.
Thank you. I'm Pat DeAngelis, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm here. This is my first meeting, and I am the council liaison for the Board of Health. So if you have any questions or concerns that you want me to relay to the council or information that you want me to find out, please contact me. I just wanted you to know I was here. Thanks.
Great. And it's nice to meet you, although we can't even see you. So I don't know that we can count meeting you, but we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So we will dive into the next agenda item, which is old business. And the only item on old business this month is to revisit the waste hauler discussion. I will attempt to do a summary of what the conversation was last time, and that can move into the discussion we wanted to have this time. So last meeting, we had our first discussion on the waste hauler. To my knowledge, it hadn't been raised, in the last year or so, and so most of us were new to the conversation. We had very useful comments from the participants at that time and the presenters. And actually, I think Andy did a nice job in his comments at the beginning of this, outlining the three components of what was being suggested. So the universal composting, the pay as you throw or proportional, and having it be town administered versus privately, individually contracted. And I think we had taken a little bit of a straw vote just to get an understanding of where we all sat, and the board seemed universally supportive of these measures, and indeed of all three of these measures. And I think where we left it was wanting to get an update from the town council about where in the process it is, so we can understand what it is that we could do that would be most useful. And then maybe have a bit of a discussion on what our role could be in supporting this initiative. Before I ask for a summary from the town council, any other board members want to add anything that I missed, anything, or Kiko or Maheen? Yeah, Betsy.
I think one question I have is, are the three components non-severable? If you do one, do you have to do all three? Because I think having universal composting available would be completely uncontroversial. Some of the complications come from the other two parts.
I will just respond with my memory and without trying to sway anything, but I think that what was raised last time around severing that is, yes, it absolutely could be done, and mandating it, to my knowledge, is within the Board of Health's remit to do such a thing. What would likely happen is that it would add a cost. So if it was required for all pickup to include composting, every household would be an added cost, and so that might get a little backlash from folks who have to pay more. And so the way to counteract that is these other two proposals, which have cost reduction implications to them. But I am not the expert. That is just my memory. I defer to others who know more.
And there was some question about whether it's a cost shift as well as a cost reduction, and how that would impact the rest, whether that would be something that would impact the town budget in a way that would interfere with other priorities.
Any other comments from a Board of Health or Kiko or Maheen? Okay. I saw a very brief hand from, was it Jennifer, from Town Council, and I'm assuming she is offering to give us an update on where things stand within the Town Council so we can promote her.
Hello. This is Jennifer Taub. I was more just wanted to also let you know that I was here too. And Andy Steinberg and I are two of the three current council sponsors. And we're also on the town services and outreach committee, which is where the waste hauler bylaw was referred by the full council. Andy chairs that committee. So he's in a, probably even a better position to give an update, but I just want to let you know I was here as well and appreciate the invitation to come and would be happy to answer questions as well.
Can you just, thank you so much, and we're really glad to have you. Can you repeat the name of the committee?
Town Services and Outreach, which we call TSO.
Okay, thank you. So Andy, would you like to give an update on where things stand?
Yes, I can give an update really briefly. There were several questions that were asked during the introductory comments from members of the committee, your committee. One was about whether the parts are severable, and I think that we are basing it upon advice that we've received from Zero Waste Amherst, but more importantly, I think that we were very much swayed by a presentation made at the Mass Municipal Association conference a couple of years ago that provided information about waste hauling systems and efforts that have been made. They've done quite a bit of research, and I think that they are all part of an essential piece. Based upon the experience that we learned about from other municipalities during that statewide conference, what we learned was that most communities end up having a lower cost system than taxpayers paid by subscribing to a private hauler through a subscription model, which is the model in place. What we ended up with as a result of all of this was a recommendation to the council, which the council endorsed, to issue a request for proposal to haulers that might provide the services that I generally described previously. And the RFP, and this is done with advice from our staff also, was that the RFP would provide an opportunity for the various haulers that provide the service throughout this region to provide bids essentially as to how much they would charge for the service, and that was the way that we could obtain the information that was necessary. Which is then led to it being a part of the town manager goals, and in money included within the budget to provide for a consultant to assist staff in formulating this very complex request for proposals. And the latest report that we received, which is about approximately a month ago, from the town manager, was that he had tried several different attempts to find a consultant who could provide that service, and that he was not finding, as of that point, an immediately available consultant. We are continuing to work with the town manager so that that RFP can be developed and issued. Through the RFP process, we will do some review of what the three components are and see if there's any more specificity or modification that's not necessary, but the consultant will probably assist us to do that. So that's kind of basically where we are. We are not happy by the fact that the town manager has found it more difficult to find the consultant. He clearly feels, and we trust his judgment and knowledge on this, of course, that the current staff doesn't have the capacity to take on the development of an RFP of this complexity. And we are continuing to work with the town manager to get that RFP, to get a consultant on board who can develop that RFP so that this gets moved forward. I had a lot of hope that we would be able to reach a conclusion before the end of this council term, but it's beginning to look less likely. So that's basically the report that I would have to offer on the current status. Certainly any support from Board of Health or anyone else who lets the town manager know that they're supportive of continuing to move forward with the development of the RFP so that we can find out that there is, in fact, as we believe will happen based upon experience elsewhere, vendors who are able to provide the service. And I guess the last thing that I would just offer in an explanation of the process, as you know, the budget is very tight for the town. The town might be able to come up with some funds to work on the transition, but the actual service, once developed, will need to be paid for similar to water and sewer bills as an enterprise fund is what it's called. And that would be the means of supporting the system going forward. And what we're looking for is to have the amount we charge through the enterprise fund be a reasonable price that we hope will be less than homeowners are paying now, particularly because we view the provision of very large bins is for many households being an expense that is unnecessary, and that the current setup from the current vendor doesn't provide significant enough decrease for smaller bins, and that's one of the cost factors that's in there. So I'll leave it there. If there are additional questions, either Jennifer or I can answer them, but I thought you were looking for a report, and pleased to provide it.
Great. That's exactly what we were looking for. Any questions from the board or Department of Health? Carmela, it looks like you're talking, but I can't hear you. And then I see Jack.
All right, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question, and I'm wondering, since I'm wondering about this not being able to find a consultant, and I guess I'd like more information about that process and why that's been a stumbling block. Could the TSO committee help with that? Or could we on the board help with that? I'm just, since that appears to be right at this moment, as far as moving the proposal forward, since that appears to be where we're stuck. I'd like to see how to get unstuck from this particular point. Andy or Jennifer, if you have any thoughts.
I don't know if I guess I'm still available and can provide an answer to that as best I can. It's a complex process, and we do have to rely on our professionals to work through the complex process. The what we're looking for is somebody who can develop an RFP of a highly technical nature on a very specific program, and we need a high degree of specificity. I have looked at other requests for proposals, including one that was issued in Longmeadow about, I guess last summer. And this was a 40 or 50 page request that went out. This was not a brief document. And so it's, which is why it's so complicated for somebody from our staff who has never developed an RFP on this topic to develop one. And I know that the other problem is there's a lot of complexity just in the system of retaining a consultant for the limited purpose of assisting in developing the RFP. And the town manager has explained that to us also. And so we're frustrated, and we appreciate the fact that you've expressed similar concerns. But as I say, I think that your support and you're sending something to the town managers, just saying that you had this discussion and that you look forward to an RFP being issued on the earliest possible schedule so they can move forward, might be a helpful thing to continue to get attention. I think that's probably the best answer. I don't know if Jennifer has anything to add.
Thank you. Yeah, I had my hand up. Thank you, Andy. That's a detailed and comprehensive update. But I also wanted to assure the board that, in addition to really following through and, issuing the RFP and hopefully adopting this waste hauler bylaw, we're calling it the refuge collection and recycling. It's a motion to do that, that in addition to that being a town manager goal, in the budget, the council appropriated funding for the consultant who will develop the RFP. So, clearly it's a paid position, but we've even appropriated a specific amount of money to ensure that that is set aside for this person to be hired. So as Andy said, it would be helpful maybe if the Board of Health, wanted to send a joint letter or email to the town manager and, just to express that, you hope that this could move forward and, stays on the front burner. We specifically requested in the Town Services and Outreach Committee that the consultant be retained and the work begin. Hopefully, actually, we would like to see the RFP go out, but certainly for the consultant to be retained and the RFP to be completed and ready to go out by the end of this calendar year. So that's our goal. We hope that can happen.
Great, thank you both. Any other, Jack, you had a hand up earlier.
Yeah, I was just, again, I don't know why I have a hard time coming in. I feel like with a lot has happened here and I'm really trying to get up to speed. But Betsy mentioned the three items that were, or three options, I guess. and I'm just kind of going over material. I need that spelled out real clearly for me, just so I don't have to ask this again.
Shall I repeat them? Would that be helpful, or would you prefer?
I'm going to write them down, but speak slow. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
It'll be in the minutes.
Yeah, the first one is to include universal composting so that every person would have a composting component, not just right now it is voluntary and you can sign up for it and pay more. But the suggestion is to have it be universal. The second is a pay as you throw or a proportional payment. So that is where you would, if you had 2 bags, it would be more than if you had 1 bag, or if you had 2 kilos, it would be more than 1 kilo. However, they end up doing that. So cheaper if you have less waste is essentially that one. And then the third one is that it be town administered versus individually signed up, so that the town would contract with one hauler. Ideally, that would make it more interesting for the private companies because they get a guaranteed amount of customers, and therefore should bring in more competitive pricing.
Okay, so the first one, the universal compost, the second and third are very clear to me. How was the first one to be implemented?
I was going to say, I wonder whether the third one is as clear, meaning that the town has to have a half-time position to administer it. So it's not just that the town makes it, it's that the town will have an employee to administer it.
There has to be oversight, of it.
And Andy mentioned that would be like a water sewer bill would be coming from the town.
That would add in the cost of that. Yeah. And I think we discussed last time that potentially the cost could be added to to the bid of the winning supplier. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be a town fee to residents or users. But that I think is still to be determined. Would anyone else like to take a stab at the universal composting? I'm not sure I can say it in a more detailed or different way.
So I, like Jack, I do find this confusing. There are a lot of moving pieces. So I think, and I could be wrong here, and maybe others can correct me, but in terms of the universal composting, it's my understanding that the Board of Health, it's within the Board of Health's jurisdiction to add universal composting, to make it a requirement in the town of Amherst, that it's not just refuse collection and recycling, but it's also composting. So that is something that the Board of Health could do. It would be complicated potentially in practice, but so far, I mean, the current regulations developed by the board require trash pickup and recycling pickup. They don't require composting pickup. So that was my understanding of that.
And so the current private offering allows you to add on composting, but it is not required to be offered.
That is correct.
So in some respects, that first one is kind of an add-in to the second two somewhat.
I mean, I think I think when Andy was talking about feeling like it's a 3-pronged approach, and that maybe the sum is more than what's that phrase? The total is more than the sum of the parts. In that they're all going for the same goal, which is reducing waste. And so by incentivizing proportional payment, that incentivizes people to have less waste. Composting can take out pounds from that waste if that's a more readily available option, and that, as we talked about last time, would go to farms, not into landfill. And then having the town could reduce costs overall. And that's the experience of the others who talked about, who we were shared last time. And so sort of the 3-in-1 hit is the goal, that each of them alone might add little complications. But I see Jennifer's hand up, so.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add, so this is all part of why it's complicated to develop the RFP. So a number of residents, many of you might do this as well, avail themselves of the transfer station. So they're not using the USA. They don't have a contract to dispose of their waste in that way. And we would like the transfer station to still be available to those residents who use it now, and new residents that would want to. So that's all also part of the cost. It's somewhat challenging for a vendor because, they're probably going to price it on the number of residents in the town, who would use the service, but we don't want it to be more expensive for those residents that are now using the transfer station. So again, this is all part of what we would be asking to be part of the RFP. And that's also part of why it's a complicated process that in-house, we don't really have the capability to do. So we'll be asking really for what would be a full package and what would be severable, if anything would, and also for the option for those residents who use the transfer station to continue to do so. So I just wanted to, add that in.
Thanks for that. And I think, Kiko started to talk about the compost is within the remit of the Board of Health, because we do set the rules for what has to be included in trash pickup. The pay as you throw is already in the current regulations. I spoke with Darcy, who is also in the audience here, and who was part of the meeting last time, earlier between these meetings, and she noted that it says proportional payment, or it says pay as you throw, but not I'll have to see. Let me look at my notes here. It says pay as you throw, but it doesn't say proportional. And so they can actually just sort of say, all right, well, it's 35 cents more for everything over 10 pounds or whatever, or the bag or the container. And so it's not proportional. And so you aren't really being penalized for having a lot more trash, or being rewarded for having a lot less. And so that is a word we could add in, or some languaging we could add into the regulations. That's within our remit. I believe that, as I've understood, proportional pay as you throw is in operation in, sorry, I still call it the town dump. I know that's not the transfer station. And so those two things are within our remit. And if this RFP and everything goes through, we would have to be changing those as well. The town administered part, I don't think we have any way to be involved with. So that is just, we can support it. We can say we think it's a good idea, but it isn't within our remit at all. And I saw Andy put a hand up. Andy, go ahead if you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I've thought about the route that you've discussed as to changing the current regulation as far as what is required of any company that wants to provide subscription services within the town. The thing that becomes very difficult is the need to understand the economics of the trash hauling system and where the expenses that the haulers have, and how that factors in, and what is feasible, therefore, because you could end up with no haulers if you come up with something that's totally unfeasible. And the reality is that the big expense is to have the truck and have the employees to pick up the truck and then take that truck and take it to either a recycling facility or a transfer station for disposal of trash that can't be recycled or composted. And because those fixed costs for having the equipment and the employees to administer the system and run the trucks is fairly significant portion of the cost. It's something that needs to be done with a great degree of care so that you don't end up with regulations that become impossible for any vendor to provide, and then there's no vendors available and no one picking up trash within the town. That would, of course, not be something that would be anyone's goal to go forward. So, you know, this is a complex problem, and but I appreciate your thinking along those lines, because that's obviously an alternative to a town-run system, is to increase the requirements on the haulers that are doing it by direct subscription, but you need to make sure it's doable.
Yep, I think that's a really useful point. Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that I do see audience member hands, and unfortunately this is not an open conversation, but there will be an additional moment for public comment at the end of the meeting. So just explaining why we haven't called on anyone. So any thoughts from the board? I mean, I think that there is there was previously interest from this board in putting our support behind this. I heard, actually, I no longer remember if it was Jennifer or Andy suggest that we could put a letter to the town manager indicating that we're supportive of this happening as soon as possible. Is that something the board is interested in doing? I see yeses from Betsy and Pramila. Jack, you're on. Okay. All right. So why don't we draft that and we'll share a draft for everyone's review. Do we have to vote on something like that, Kiko? Do we have to vote that we're going to send a letter of support?
Maybe, I don't really know. I'm not the expert on these things. It's not like you're voting on a regulation. I think it's okay. You just got consensus. Yeah.
You have almost a silly other question, which is, do we think that we couldn't find anyone to do the proposal because the amount of money to write it was too low? I mean, this seems like it's a topic that's of, interest in many communities, and there should be a population of people who write such proposals. Do you have some insight into why no one was interested in doing it?
Andy or Jennifer?
Thanks.
I do not think that we really know an answer to that question. We take the town manager's description of the efforts that he's made, and it does not seem that it was the amount of money, but more time and availability. And what he was hoping for is that it would be something that would make it a process that in and of itself doesn't become convoluted, and therefore he has to work with some constraints in order to make sure that the hiring of the consultant is done in and of itself according to the requirements. So it's sort of like this double piece. Hiring a consultant to get a consultant is sort of what I mean by the double piece.
My first town committee, I don't know.
Pramila, did I see you had a question?
Well, I was actually just formulating a question. I don't know if there just needs to be more transparency about this process in terms of finding a consultant. It's just, you know, maybe there are other committees, individuals who can contribute in terms of suggestions, for where to look for such a consultant. Have to say that I am frustrated by the fact that we sent a letter previously, well over a year ago, and there's been no feedback to us up until the point today where Andy and Jennifer so kindly provided updates. And I mean, in terms of sustainability, which I think we all support, I think that it seems to me, this is something that's important to move forward. And, you know, to have it stuck in limbo without any um, path for resolving this area where we're stuck is concerning to me.
And I see Jennifer's hand.
Well, I'm just speaking for myself, but it may be that you would want to invite the town manager to also, come to one of your meetings to provide an update and, some more insight than, even we on the council have.
Mhm. Thank you. Yes, that's a good point.
Jack, I think I saw a hand.
Yeah, I was going to say that I could reach out because I'm on the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. I could, definitely ask them because, it's a, solid waste is a regional issue, and they may have some expertise there, or, reaching out to a neighboring, planning, regional planning commission but they have a good network, so I can definitely give that a shot if you think it'd be worthwhile.
Yeah, I wonder what the best way is, because we know that even on this call we have several groups represented that are highly supportive of this. I feel like if we all tapped all the resources that we have, we might be able to bring some names to the forefront that haven't gotten there yet, but I don't know if that's welcome. Jennifer or Andy, I think most of us on this board don't interact with the town council or town manager enough to know how processes work. I can certainly speak for myself. Would it be welcome to help find folks, or is that not the proper process here? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'd muted. Certainly, if Jack knows someone through his work in the Pioneer Valley, I would say it certainly couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
So yes, if you know people that do this, that could be helpful.
Great.
Okay, I definitely I'll do that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I heard two, beyond Jack using his networks, I heard two things for us. One is to draft the letter of support to the town manager, and then potentially invite him to give an update at either the next meeting or a future meeting, depending on schedules and agendas. Great. All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time on this topic. And Jennifer and Andy, really nice to meet you both. Okay, we will move into the new business section, which is, and the first agenda item there is Kratom. Thank you all who have hung on to the call for this long. I know we're behind agenda time. Kiko, I wonder if you could kick us off with how this got on our agenda and how this came to our world.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I actually looked back, and it is something that we had talked about very briefly as a board back in June 2024. I think it came up in the context of Delta 8 products, cannabis products that are in that loophole that can be sold but are technically illegal. And we had talked about that as a board. And as part of that, kratom was another one of these, or kratom, I've heard it pronounced both ways, but one of these substances that tends to show up in smoke shops and retailers of that ilk. And so we talked about it a little bit, and so we sort of introduced it as something that was out there in the landscape, but it wasn't ever proposed as something that we wanted to regulate or do anything about as a board, that you all wanted to do anything about as a board. So then in the last couple of months, I heard from my counterpart in Northampton, so Meredith O'Leary, she's the Public Health Commissioner for the Northampton Department of Health and Human Services, and their Board of Health had been discussing kratom over a number of meetings. And she reached out because often it's really powerful when local boards of health are in sync around certain things. For example, the nicotine-free generation that we'll talk about a little bit later today, and that we've also talked about extensively, is something Northampton has talked about. Belchertown has passed it. So we talk to each other about what's on our minds in the region. And so she wanted to know, has your board discussed kratom, and has your board considered regulating kratom in some way? And so I said, well, not really. Let's put it on the agenda. And so that's where it came from. And just so everybody knows, I think they had a couple of meetings, at least two. Maheen listened into those recordings and sent some information to all of you so you would kind of understand what it is Northampton had talked about. And they ended up prohibiting the sale and distribution of all synthetic kratom. So you heard from some of the commenters earlier the distinction between natural leaf kratom and synthetic kratom, very different things. So that's what's happened in Northampton, and that they are working on a regulation that would restrict the sale by location, age, etc., of natural kratom in the near future. So that's the decision that they came to in Northampton. And I think it's up to us to think about whether we want to regulate, and if so, how. There are other communities in the area that have banned it. I believe Ware just issued an all-out ban on kratom, I'd say more than a year ago. And so I think there's clearly a lot of advocates out there. You heard from many of them today, and I think probably more nuanced conversation about it now than maybe a year or so ago. So I think it's up to this board to figure out what the stance would be for our town.
Where is kratom being, well, I'm going to use the proper pronunciation, kratom, that's Thai. Sorry.
Thank you, Premila. Thank you.
Where is it being sold in Amherst?
I have seen it on the shelves at Wildside Smoke Shop, which is not a smoke shop. I shouldn't say that because they actually don't have a tobacco license. They gave up their tobacco sales permit, but they do sell all kinds of smoking accessories and paraphernalia. These psychedelic mushroom products that are also on the shelves that are also unregulated. There are quite a few things that you can find in stores like that sort of cater to people who are interested in trying different types of substances. I've seen it there. I believe I've seen it at some other places, perhaps in some convenience stores that have tobacco sales permits. I feel like I've seen it, but I can't guarantee. I know I've seen it at Wildside. I'm not sure about the other places, but those are the kinds of shops that this product is being sold at in other communities.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I mean, it's a whole new sphere for us again. So there was a lot of information in the packets, and even more information out in the world about it. Jack, do you have one?
Yeah, I'd have to say some of the comments from the public were quite informative. It sounds like something that has, a good application for a sector of the population. I just, Googled it, and I couldn't, I really didn't find anything that like this natural leaf one. So again, I feel like I still don't really have my finger on what the product is that's safe versus the one that is synthetic, and hopefully it's clear, somewhat clear to the consumer, which is which. But and again, this is new to me, and it seems very intriguing that there's something like this that provides relief and isn't, addictive any more than, say, coffee or something. But
So Jack, can I respond to that? Because I think part of the issue is that it may not be clear to the consumers. I think that there are many of the people that we've heard from are very well informed about kratom and have been using it for a long time. I think that there are products on the shelves that are called kratom that could be, they're like these little energy drinks that you can get that look like those 5-hour energy things that people, take without thinking twice about it. But it could contain some of the synthetic, the 7-OH or whatever it's called. Again, I'm not the expert. I'm also learning. But I think that is exactly the concern, is that there are many products out there and it is not clear to people what is what. And so that's where the concern arises, is that some of it may be more dangerous than others. And that's why I think when one of the commenters mentioned that at the end of July, the FDA moved to label one of these products, the synthetic product, the 7-OH, as a dangerous drug that they're going to look at regulating in some way. So it's complicated, and there are many, everyone wants to make a buck. There's a lot of stuff out there on the shelves, and I think we're just looking to protect people from taking something that could be potentially dangerous while also allowing folks to use something that could be potentially helpful. That's the balance that we're always trying to strike in public health, and that the Board of Health needs to strive for.
Well, two things. I mean, I want to say I have no doubt that it has been helpful in its pure form to some people. I will say that I would take with a grain of salt the statement that it is no more addictive than a cup of coffee. It's just that I would need a lot of research and data to be, to feel that statement was a valid statement. That's one person's opinion. I looked in UpToDate, which is the medical resource that I use. Betsy's probably familiar with it. They cull the medical journals on a regular basis and have available online information about a broad range of medical topics. And while there isn't a lot of information, there is, there's a section on the management of kratom withdrawal or use disorder. So clearly, there are it's something that can lead to misuse or overuse or abuse, and people may need to be guided through withdrawal and so on and so forth. All I'm saying is I think it makes sense for us to be involved in some kind of regulation of the availability of the product, and maybe just the synthetics. I'm not quite sure. Certainly, it would take a lot more information and research on our part in terms of making a decision about this. But I just think we need to look at it more deeply.
I feel like I read in the packet that Massachusetts, as a state, that there may be some movement in regulation. Does anyone recall what that was? I can go back and look at it, but part of my question is, it feels quite early in the research. I also felt like the research was a little thin on all of the pros and cons of it, and at what, are there differences in how it's taken or some sort of dosing kinds of things. And it looks like the FDA is just getting involved. Others are starting to get involved, and just sort of where we fall within all of that. I guess it says potentially as a stopgap. If there's something that's very clearly dangerous, it seems like maybe the synthetic, there's more clarity on that, as others are still doing more research, hopefully, and looking at it from either state or federal. Betsy?
I wanted to echo what I heard Risha say. I felt that two things. One is the fact that something is natural doesn't mean it's not potent. When you think about, opium or, those are extracts from a poppy. Doesn't have to be artificial to be potent and have problems. I think it does sound like the research is thin and one doesn't want to be either overly restrictive or reduce barriers when there's so little, there really isn't that much known. I saw the letter from the FDA commissioner who took a strong stance. I don't know what to make about that. My reading of what Massachusetts is doing is I think they said 4 towns have decided to regulate it in some fashion. And we had the statements, I think in our packet there was information from those 4 communities that were regulating it. I think it's an interesting, getting that just right, not making unnecessary barriers nor opening up easy access to potentially at-risk people. There's a sweet spot to find, and I certainly couldn't find that sweet spot based on my hours spent with this material. I feel like I've just started to understand this. It's not something that had passed my radar before.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to say, I'm just looking at that section from the packet, and it's
great.
are you looking at it as well? So the House, the Massachusetts House proposed a bill to make kratom a Class A controlled substance. The Senate proposed a bill that prohibits the sale of any kratom product or extract. And then another Massachusetts House bill aims to penalize anyone who sells adulterated kratom products. So there are a number of different things that have been introduced. Nothing has been passed. Then the city of Lowell and the town of North Attleboro are limiting the sale of products. You heard that Northampton is also limiting the sale. And I believe it's Ware that banned the sale. I may be mistaken, but I'm sure there's one other community that I know of that has or severely restricted the sale or availability of kratom in their community.
So I heard from Premila that she feels like that there is a role for this board to look at this and look at what we want to do about putting any restrictions on. Are others similarly inclined to take a deeper dive and see what makes sense given what information is out there? I see a slight nod from Betsy and an unclear look from Jack. And probably you're allowed to change your mind if
No, I'm not changing my mind. Okay. I'm concerned, that a product like this would be available at a convenience store, that there's, it's accessible to children, to adolescents. And that, so while I'm not against the product per se, it has properties that could endanger the public if they're using it unknowingly, and therefore I think it does make sense to look into whether or not there's, we want to regulate it, whether that be under 21, only available to people over 21, only in certain forms, whatever. I mean, I think that's certainly something we would need to do a deeper dive into, but it is concerning, and I'm sure that things come up new products come up all the time, but this is one that's been brought before us, and I think it's definitely, in my opinion, worth looking into.
So I'm just wondering if we have the bandwidth to kind of take this on and regulate it, would this require a new bylaw? How would it be if we do restrict it? How big a lift is that with everything else going on right now for you, Kiko, and others?
I mean, I'm assuming that we would potentially have templates from these other towns that could be, I think there would be a series of conversations that would need to happen in terms of what we want to regulate and what parts of this we want to touch and what parts we don't. Then to get the wording and the considerations, and we could look at templates from these other towns, because it looks like the whole range of things has been done, whether that's completely banning it, restricting where it can be sold, restricting to whom it could be sold, or only banning certain types, the synthetic in particular. It seems like all of that has been done somewhere, and so the language would exist for us to adapt. So in terms of what's on our agenda for the future, not a whole lot, because we haven't had those conversations about what we want to proactively take. So we keep reactively taking things on, and this could be one of those things we reactively take on. I assume it would look like the tobacco legislation, just a lot smaller. So I can't speak to whether Kiko wants to be part of supporting this or not, but
yeah, well, my perspective on that is that this is the work of the Board of Health to make regulations about things that are potentially harmful to public health. So you all make the policy, I do the programmatic stuff. So it's a question of how the board wants to spend its time. I think it's definitely within the role of the Board of Health. Clearly, other boards of health have done this to be concerned, as Premila is saying, about products that might be out there that could be dangerous to people's health. So being able to figure out what makes sense for Amherst based on what your particular philosophies, I support that. It's not really about my workload so much as it is about what the board wants to focus on right now. And I agree that it's not like we have some great big project that you all are wanting to roll up your sleeves and dive into that might come down the line. But this is something that's timely. The FDA is looking at it now. It's very au courant. So it's not like you're, it's not relevant. Anyway, I think Jack wanted to say something else.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is there an existing bylaw that kind of is a grass catcher for other chemicals that we're regulating, that this could just be amended to that?
I really think the work isn't significant. I mean, as Risha said, this would be like the tobacco regulations. So we have tobacco regulations. We have templates for those that we used as a model. There are other towns that have done these regulations. We would take one of their templates, make sure it made sense for Amherst, and then do it. So it's not, that's what we would work off of. There isn't anything currently here except tobacco. That's the closest thing that we have as a regulation currently.
Okay.
and I think the statement of it wouldn't be a big lift, it would be like tobacco is not a full
I
sentence
know.
because it was a huge lift.
As I was saying that, I thought, wait, what am I saying?
I imagine it will not be quick and it will not be one meeting, but it will not be nearly the lift that tobacco, because a lot of what we were doing there was trying to correct things from the past. And
right. And I also think the
much more
body arts
history.
regulation, there was a lot of from scratch work that had to be done for the body arts regulation, which took a lot of time. But this is something that I feel like is more narrow in scope. I think we will have recently passed regulations from Northampton to look at as a guide. So yes, a lot of work, but not hopefully as much as some of the other things we've worked on.
Famous last words. I think one of the lessons we've learned from those two, though, is that it really helps to have two people who are willing to roll up their sleeves in this. And so my question is, are any of you, I mean, I think there's consensus that it's worth looking into. I don't think any of us knows exactly where we'll land on this, but that it's worth spending more time on. Would anyone like to volunteer that this is something they're interested in digging in? What that probably means is coming up with recommendations to the board after doing some of the legwork.
I would be willing. It would be helpful to have one more person who would be willing to assist. But
anyone else?
So I'll just say that I'm always available to assist with these things. So I mean, and I could work, and I have Meredith who is really helpful in Northampton to bounce ideas off of. So I mean, would be great to have another board member. Can't force anybody to volunteer, but if it's just me and Pramila, I think we can manage it. But not trying to shut down other people from volunteering if they want to. Just saying.
I just want to say I haven't forgotten about the well regulations, Kiko. The
Yeah,
summer
okay.
didn't go the way I thought it would.
Betsy, you're muted.
I guess I won't leave Premila and Kiko alone on this. I'm willing to do this with Premila. Because I think we probably both have the feeling that it's the pediatric piece that we're the pediatric and the unlabeled piece that is the thing that makes us gives us pause.
Well, I was very much hoping the two of you would be the dream team on this because I think you bring really useful skills in looking at the research and understanding what we're really talking about. So thank you both. And Kiko is there to support. I think the first task is, you guys determine your timeline for it, but is looking at the research and sort of bringing some recommendations to the board on what kinds of things you think you'd like to restrict, if any, and then also if there's any other support, if we want to bring in people or to help discuss further. To everyone on the call because there's a lot of you that were interested in this topic, there is still an open comments moment at the end of the meeting. And I will also state that any regulations that we would make as a town would have a public hearing. And so there will be future times to discuss this as well, even if we're not specifically asking for them. Great. Well, thank you both. And thank you, Kiko, for adding this to the agenda. And I really appreciate everyone who's come and taken the time to comment. Again, there is one more time for that. And all the people who wrote in with comments as well. Okay. I have, of course, closed the agenda. I think the next one is speaking of public hearings, the preparation for our fall public hearing on tobacco. I will give my intro to this, Kiko, then you can come in and add. We had decided that we would like to have a hearing about tobacco-free generation. Because we hadn't explicitly put it forward as an idea in the tobacco regulations, we didn't feel like we really had a fair public hearing on that because you would have had an opinion about it, and a very strong one because it wasn't actually in the regulations that someone would know to comment on. And we thought we particularly wanted to hear from young people because they would be the ones most immediately and long-term impacted because the framework is if you were born after a certain year, you will never be able to buy tobacco products in this town if that passed. So, and then we said we should not have something while school's not in session because our town is very heavily students and we want to hear from the younger of those, as well as folks even younger than that. So Kiko, is there anything you'd like to add on this agenda item?
I think you summarized it really well.
So we need a date and then we need a plan to get those the people to actually feedback that we want to because they aren't not people who typically attend our meetings. So
yeah. So as you were talking, I was thinking that we'd probably want to do something in October or maybe even November, and probably a separate public hearing date, so not combined with the Board of Health meeting. I think what we'd want to try to do is pick a date, and then the Public Health Department can certainly do the outreach, liaise with the schools or youth serving organizations, and we'll make flyers up and just get the word out about the hearing once we've settled on a date.
Great. And I agree. I think it has to be its own hearing, right? I mean, I think that's part of what a public hearing is it has to be outside of our meetings. I don't have a strong opinion October or November. I don't know if anyone else thinks it's, wants to make sure it happens sooner rather than later, or is out for the entire month somehow. I mean, obviously with the Thanksgiving holidays, it would be sort of first half of November, ideally.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the calendar to know what else is happening within those time periods, but
I just want to say I will be away for the first 2 weeks of November.
Okay.
so then maybe it makes sense to aim for October.
Yeah, maybe sort of a mid to late October.
Yep. I've got Indigenous People Day and Diwali on my calendar for conflicts, but those are easy to work around. Yep.
Yep.
I'm wondering also whether it makes sense to get, in terms of students, to get some people from the high school as well as, local area pediatricians to try and really get a focus and a response from the affected age groups. I think one of the things that, I've noticed is there are a lot of advocates who speak to these topics and bring a nice outside expertise, but it doesn't really give us the sense of where our community is. And I think it would be really helpful to make sure we're getting voices from within our community to speak to these issues.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's our goal is as much local as possible, because I think what we did here was the advocacy groups on both sides who are not necessarily local because they know it's a potential thing we would talk about. But I think it would be great to sort of explain to high schoolers, to freshmen in the universities, that this is on the docket and get their feedback to it. And I like your pediatrician add-in as well.
So yeah, I mean, we have some good relationships with some pediatricians in town as a result of some of this vaccine campaign work that we've been doing. So we have those connections. We have connections to the school nurses, for the high school. So we can certainly promote that way. I think we also want to promote through the universities, and I have some good connections there. We have an intern with us who's been from UMass, who's been with us all summer, and she's actually listening in on this meeting, and she just messaged me very intelligently that we should make sure not to schedule this during the time when students will be crazy with exams. So late October, early November would not be a good time to schedule because college students would be less likely to come. So mid-October would be better. So, maybe we're looking at, where's my calendar? Shoot. Like the middle of the month, October, that week, that middle week in October, the week of the 13th.
Yeah. It starts off with Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So sometime that week, maybe.
All right, let's see what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everyone will be around, right? No one has any restrictions. It would be an evening meeting like we did last time. I think then the other question is, are we going to do it in person or virtual? We did the last one virtually because we wanted to do it in person, but weather prohibited that from happening, right?
We also have the same format as we had last time, which is our meeting is scheduled for the 9th. And so it could be a tag on. So it's one long night versus 2 nights of our time.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a preference between splitting it or putting it together?
Together.
So I think our meeting's the 2nd though, right? It's the first Thursday. Yeah.
My calendar has not been updated, I guess.
So that gives us less time to plan. If we
Yeah,
did it
that's
on
not
that
as,
day.
I'm gonna have to update all of my,
Oh, and that's also Yom Kippur.
The 2nd of October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, so maybe we changed the meeting that month because of that, and that's why it's the 9th.
Right?
That rings a
then-
bell for me.
We're first Thursday now. First Thursday of the month is when the Board of Health meets.
Right, but did we say that because it was Yom Kippur for this month,
It was the 9th? Oh, yeah, you're right. That's right. Yes, that's correct. Right, Maheen?
Yeah, we
Isn't she
did.
right? Yeah, okay. So you're right, my bad. I guess I have it wrong on my calendar. So, right, so then we could do it on the 9th.
Now, how close is that to oh, that's the Thursday before
The long weekend.
weekend. So you college people, does the long weekend start Thursday night?
College people.
I don't know.
My guess is it could.
I think, yeah. I would take feedback if we want to get it as we look into planning. Maybe that's the way to do this.
Yeah.
Tentatively schedule for the 9th, but if feedback comes back that that is not a great day, particularly for university students, we could then look at the following week. Great. I am aware of time. We are quite over at this point. And so maybe just let's push the next item to a following meeting. There's no urgency on that. And so we'll go into the director's update.
Sure, I can be brief. Just a couple things on the mosquito tick-borne front. It's really a banner year for tick-borne disease across the Commonwealth. Many more cases, sharp increases. We follow cases here. We've had a number of cases of anaplasmosis and babesiosis, and some people who are co-infected with both, which is really not fun. It does tend to affect younger and older populations, so that's where we're seeing a lot of the cases that we're following.
Kiko, where do you get,
Yeah.
how do you get your numbers, or how does this get routed to you? How do you know? How do
Our
you know?
job in public health is to follow reportable diseases. So there's a system, it's called MAVEN, the Massachusetts Viral and Epidemiological Network or something like that. So it's an electronic system. So whenever somebody goes into a medical office and they test positive for a tick-borne disease, if they're in Amherst, it gets entered into the system, and Olivia, our public health nurse, follows up with that person. Make sure that they're getting the treatment they need, that they have the education they need, that they're, doing okay. So that's just part of, anytime there's a reportable disease, if it's like a infectious disease like tuberculosis or salmonella, we follow those things. It's an electronic system that alerts us to people in Amherst with those reportable conditions. So, and then the state tracks all the numbers. So on their website, you can look it up. They have all the cases of anaplasmosis, babesiosis, Lyme disease that are being reported in the Commonwealth every month. They update it.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to be, we're doing a lot of education, making sure that people know that try to prevent tick bites. And if you find a tick on you, get it off. We have tick removal kits that we're giving out, recommending for people to call their providers because you can sometimes get doxycycline prophylactically if you find a tick that's been attached to you for more than 12 hours, rather than waiting to see if you have symptoms. So, and then on the mosquito-borne illness front, I think I've mentioned to you all many times that we have this contract with the Pioneer Valley Mosquito Control District, and they do surveillance. So they're collecting samples of mosquitoes to see if they're carrying West Nile virus or Triple E virus. No mosquitoes in Amherst so far have been found to be carrying either of those viruses. There were some mosquitoes in Belchertown 2 weeks ago that were found to have Triple E, which is sort of an unusual finding. We don't usually get Triple E out here. It's usually more in the sort of Cape, Plymouth, Brockton area. So no, we stepped up testing along the Belchertown Amherst border in light of that finding, but there have been no additional findings, and no cause for concern. Our risk is still low for that disease and for West Nile virus in Amherst. So it does tend to tick up, the risk does, towards the end of the season. So I expect we might have some mosquitoes testing positive for West Nile, but we haven't had cases of West Nile or Triple E here in Amherst for years. So it's possible that people have had West Nile. It can be very mild. It's not detected. Triple E is another story. It's much more serious. So just telling people to try not to get bitten, you know, observe those peak biting hours, don't go out, wear repellent, wear long sleeves, all that good stuff. I mentioned that we've had 2 interns with us this summer. Haley Barrows, who is a UMass Amherst student, a master's in public health student. She did her practicum with us this summer. She's been very helpful. She's been working on the opioid settlement fund needs assessment and plan. So she's put together a survey that's out in the field. It's been out for about 3 weeks. We wanted to hear from people about how they think we should spend our funds. And we've gotten more than 75 responses, which is more than we got through a shared survey that we've done through Hampshire Hope, the regional opioid task force, I guess last year. Not as many Amherst people responded to that as are responding to our own homegrown survey. It's much shorter, and I think it's great. So we have flyers about that. I can send them all out to the board so you can get the word out also in your communities that we're still soliciting input from people about how the money should be spent. And we definitely want to hear most from people who are directly impacted by the opioid crisis. So people who use drugs, people in recovery, their families, friends, loved ones. Those are the voices we really want to highlight. We're doing a couple of community forums that Haley and I will be running the 19th of August and the 21st of August. The 19th is virtual, the 21st is in person. We're sending out flyers about that and asking people to please come to a forum. We'll have snacks and we want to listen to people's thoughts in person if they don't feel like sending out filling out a survey or in addition to filling out a survey. So that's the project that Haley's been working on. It's been great to have her, and we hope to have her continue to work on this stuff a little bit longer as she finishes her last year of school on sort of a part-time basis. And then the other intern was Dominion, Feme Jegede. Her last name is a little hard to pronounce, but very beautiful. Her last day was yesterday, and she was working on this vaccine information campaign that we are going to launch later this month. So keeping it under wraps for now. Betsy, I definitely want to reach out to you because I'd love to get your feedback on what we're working on. We have a website and social media stuff. We just want to create a trusted local source of information for people during this very confusing time. That's the goal.
Did John Snyder get deeply involved?
John Snyder is deeply involved and he's been awesome. So we're really happy about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's terrific. I think those are the main things I wanted to highlight. Oh, we will be doing a table for Overdose Awareness Day at the Universalist Church here next door. We're not doing a vigil or anything like that in Amherst, but there are vigils in recognition of this day. It's August 31st, but the vigils that are happening locally are on the 28th of August in Belchertown and Northampton. We'll be promoting that and encouraging people to take a moment to recognize people lost to overdose. So we'll be giving information and referring people to those events. And then the final thing I was going to say is you all know that there's a vacancy on the Board of Health. There are several applicants for that vacancy. And I don't know if I'm not sure if I told you, Risha, but Risha has been involved in the interviews and there will be interviews of these folks at the end of the month. So I'll make sure that date, I think we built it around your schedule, Risha. So that will be happening, that we'll be interviewing candidates. So hopefully we'll have a full board come fall. I think that's it for me. Yeah, that's it for me. I know we have one final agenda item that we have to.
Yeah, let's
quickly
move
talk
into
about.
it.
Yeah. So I sent to you all the water supply certificate application. That's probably not the right wording, but basically new water supply at a house on Market Hill Road in Amherst. Originally tested positive high levels of manganese. This is a common problem. We reviewed another water application before that had a similar issue. And the homeowner installed a reverse osmosis device and had the water tested again, and the manganese levels are well below standards now, from both a sort of a health standard and an aesthetic standard. So that problem has been rectified. There was just an administrative error with her sending in some stuff, missing something, one of the inspectors going on vacation. This information didn't get to you all in a timely fashion, so that's why I sent it out just before the meeting. But essentially it's the sort of, the board has approved these water supply certificates before, with proof that the problem has been rectified, which has been provided to you. And so it's just a question of voting to approve the certificate. So I'll turn it to Risha to do that. But I also think that this is something that, you know, Jack made reference to well regulations earlier in this conversation. It probably doesn't make sense for these things to come before the board when they're very straightforward. Inspectors can handle something like, oh, here's a result that is clearly high in manganese. We're going to work with the homeowner to put in the treatment thing. We're going to look at the results to show us that the problem has been resolved. Is there really a need for the board to approve that, or can the board delegate that responsibility to the inspectors to approve a simple, non-complicated water supply certificate like this one? So I think that's something that we can put on an agenda for discussion in the future, but the matter before the board right now is to approve this current water supply certificate for this house on Market Hill Road.
Great. Thank you, Kiko. Did anyone have any questions or concerns with the application that was submitted? The information? I mean, I briefly looked at it and it looked straightforward. Would anyone like to make a motion to pass it? What is it, to approve the water certificate? Is that what we're doing? Okay.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Kiko, I like your suggestion, and maybe what we can do for the next meeting is just share the wording currently of what we do, and maybe you and I can talk about a suggested revision for the board to consider.
Okay.
All right, we are anything before, so the last thing on the agenda is a second option for comment, because we did have, A, we want to do this at every agenda, and B, we knew that this had several comments and intrigue. So is there any last comments from the board before we move into that? Okay, if not, we open it to public comment. I think at this point, there's probably not so many of you that we can just take it, whatever topic you want to comment on. Still a 3-minute limit. Please introduce yourself again, and just know that we won't be able to react immediately to any comments, but we appreciate your feedback. Over to you, Maheen.
Heidi Sikora, I'm going to allow you to speak.
Hi. I am from Wakanda, Illinois. I remember this time. I really enjoyed listening to your conversation, and we are totally on board with regulation. We do have an educational program that Laura Romney, John Schinholzer, myself, and Jen Mercier have presented to other communities that gives the base for science and also ideas for regulation. And we've helped other communities do that all over. Northampton was one of them. And so if you want to go back and listen to that hearing, there was education there. I also wanted to say that I do have an article that is published that kind of is more of a primer. And so if you look up my name and home care, Kratom for the home care patient, then you'll find that. And that's all I wanted to say. Oh, the educational program is like 30 to 60 minutes. And I think it probably save you hours of time as far as research, because it is very well referenced. Thank you.
Okay, next we have John.
Thank you so much. John Schinholzer. I'm from the Richmond metropolitan area, but I do live in Ashland, Virginia. And great conversation. I feel like I just sat through a 2-hour documentary, but it was good. Y'all did a good job. The one woman was correct in the pronunciation. It is kratom. That's how you say it. But that is the Indonesia pronunciation, but here they say kratom or kratom, but kratom is correct. And you're also correct when you said there was a kratom use disorder, treatment plan, but they also got one for caffeine too. And kratom is genetically part of the coffee family, and coffee is the most widely used psychoactive substance in America. And most people don't realize it, but a teaspoon of caffeine will kill you dead instantly. That's why they have caffeine regulations in those products you see in the mini mart on the counters, those stay awake products. But every problem we have with kratom nationwide is coming from an adulterated product or a spiked product, or quite frankly, an illegal product, because 7-OH should have been illegal. It should have never been in the marketplace because it's a full agonist, and they never demonstrated to the FDA the safety profile. They lied about it. So that's another reason for the education we do. And when you drill down to the people who do develop a kratom use disorder, less than 1% of those people is coming from the natural leaf product. So that's a pretty good number compared to all the other products you can abuse. They have, that duster, the computer dust, the whippet they have in whipped cream, even glue. They regulate those products. They don't ban them. So just be mindful of all that. And thank you so much for letting me say my piece here before we quit. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next we have Jen.
Hi, thank you so much again. I'm Jen. I was born and raised in Amesbury, and I'm your neighbor in New Hampshire. I enjoyed listening to your conversation, and I love the open-mindedness and how this came from Northampton. Like Dr. Heidi Shakura had brought up, that we had done the training for them, and I hope you have the time to potentially give us the opportunity to save you a lot of time and energy and effort for us to give you the research that has been done over. I know somebody had said that the research is quite new, but it's going on 20 years of in-depth peer-reviewed studies at this point. I just don't think they're easily accessible, where if you are open to it, emails upon documents, upon videos, upon testimonies, we can provide. So and also the FDA, it's not out yet, but the FDA just did their first dose study, and they determined that even at a high dose, pure powdered kratom is very well tolerated. I think they gave 12 grams at once to their participants. And for context, in my opinion, a proper dose is a teaspoon, which is 2.5 grams or less. So 12 grams all at once is mind-boggling to me, and everybody tolerated it well. The only complaint, even in the placebo, was nausea. And when you think about ingesting 12 grams of anything, you're ingesting a lot of material. So that's where that came from. So it'll be really great once that study comes out. Hopefully that will be soon, but that's something also to keep in mind. Yeah, and I hope to hear from you. I know Laura has emailed, and I will also email. And I'm local, so I can drive to you. I know there's some concern about figuring out what products or what, and what is available to consumers. And once you know what you're looking for, it's very, very easy. I actually offered it to the Board of Northampton as well, for their regulations, because they decided to get rid of synthetics. If they wanted me to come and kind of do a super brief training, like walk into a shop and be like, this is how you tell, this is how you can look at a bag, this is the things that you are looking for, this is what you want to see, and this is what you don't want to see. And then, you can have a little local task force to kind of help enforce, because I know, as you were saying, the lift of regulation can be hard, but I think this is a community effort at this point. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Misty Brown, I'm going to allow you to speak.
Hi, Misty Brown from Colorado. To kind of simplify it for y'all were talking about ticks earlier. 7-OH, the synthetic 7-OH products that are posing to be kratom products, they're a tick. They're a tick to the kratom community. They're sucking the life force out of kratom. pretending to be kratom. And I'll give y'all another example as well. If you remember the K2, spice problem that was going on, that right there was a tick to the cannabis community. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And also the Northampton ladies were fabulous. They were fabulous to listen to. So I hope you guys take that offer to get that free training that Dr. Heidi does, and Laura and Jen Mercier and John. Yeah, please take that training. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. I don't see anyone else. I guess this is the final call. If anyone would like to make comment, please raise your hand.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Really appreciate how, for people who stayed on to the very end, that's impressive. And thank you, board, for a very packed meeting. I think we need to have someone move to adjourn. Betsy moves, second. Pamela, all in favor of adjourning at 7:09? All right. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.